Hi.
Welcome back to another video. So, I'm sitting down on the floor. Today is a sit down chat video, and it's a good one. It's gonna be a fun one. Today we're gonna be talking about gym tips for beginners. Stuff that I wish I knew at the beginning of my fitness journey, stuff that I would tell somebody if they're starting out. I get a lot of questions like this on Instagram, just being like, I don't know where to start. What are tips and tricks? So here I am to help. I also posted today on Instagram and I asked my Instagram community to comment things that they've either learned or things they wish they knew or just like questions they have. So I'm going to be pulling some stuff from that as well. Just this is a disclaimer too, like this is just what I would recommend. If you did something else that worked for you, that's totally fine. Or if you want to try something else that's not mentioned in this list, that's totally fine too. This is just stuff that like came to my mind immediately when I was like, if I could go back and do it all again, what would I do differently? Try out a few gyms and find one that makes you feel the most comfortable. I feel like when I first started, I just went to the gym that was nearest to me, which was totally fine. That was a great option for me. But at the same time, I didn't realize that gyms have like different vibes. There are all women's gyms. There are like more bodybuilding style gyms. There are like CrossFit boxes. There are powerlifting gyms. There's tons of different kinds out there and they all kind of have like a slightly different vibe. And it just depends on like what makes you feel the most comfortable. If you're somebody that likes to work out, by yourself and you don't like anybody near you, it might be better to find like a smaller local gym that's going to be less crowded, just less going on, and then just go at off-peak hours so you can be by yourself. If you're the opposite and you kind of are competitive and you like being in a gym environment with other people where you can sort of like feed off of their energy or just like compete with them, even though you might not tell them that, then it might be better to join like a bigger gym or like a bodybuilding gym that you can sort of go at those like peak training hours and just have that like pump up atmosphere. I would say the only way to figure that out is to find a couple gyms in your area, whatever that radius is, if you only want to drive like 5 or 10 minutes or if you want it to be walkable, whatever those criteria are. Just find a couple gyms and just ask if they have like free trials. Most people will let you try the gym for a day for free. Sometimes there's like a 7-day free trial. It just kind of depends on the gym. And just try out a couple until you find a vibe that you like. The second tip that I have is get into a routine that works for you. So if you know you're not a morning person and you are like a night owl, I don't know if it would be the best idea for you to be waking up at like 5 a.m. and trying to get to the gym by like 7 a.m. or 6 a.m. before work, if that's just not how your body already likes working. It's totally something you can work toward, but for me, it's like when you're implementing a new habit, it's like work on one thing at a time. If you know that you are like a night owl, maybe your prime gym time is like 8 or 9 p.m. I would just try to find a schedule that works for you and your natural body and what you enjoy doing instead of trying to fit yourself in to a schedule that you see on social media or a schedule that your coworker has. And I think another piece of that is just being realistic and not being like, I'm gonna start going to the gym 5 days a week. That's a lot to go from 0 to 5. When I first started working out, I went 3 days a week at first. And I did that for like 6 months until I built up a really solid habit going 3 days a week. And that worked really well for me. I would go Monday, Wednesday, Friday of every week. And it was always Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It was always between like 10 a.m. and 12 p.m. because that's what worked for my schedule at the time. And I just made that a habit and a routine. My workouts were about 30 minutes long, so it didn't feel like it was too much to bite off. Like I wasn't signing up for like a 2-hour workout. It was just 30 minutes, 3 days a week. And that was like a very digestible habit for me to start with. That also segues to my next point, which is that you shouldn't be fooled by social media. There's a lot of stuff on social media right now about like my morning routine, like a day in my life. I make videos like that all the time, but I realize that like, just because that's my day in life, it doesn't mean it needs to be your day in life. And just because you go on TikTok and you see like an it girl morning routine and they're waking up at 5 a.m., drinking celery juice and hitting the gym by like 6, it doesn't mean you need to be doing that. And for a lot of people, that's really unsustainable. I don't do early morning workouts. Like, I kind of hate them. I just feel like my best workouts happen when I have a full meal in my stomach. I have like 2 cups of coffee. I've already taken my morning poo, and then I'm ready to go to the gym. And that is usually like after 10 a.m. So if I need to go to the gym in the early morning, I will, but it's not enjoyable. I don't look forward to it. Don't be fooled by social media. Just because a lot of people have that schedule and they're going 5 days a week at 4 or 5 a.m., it doesn't mean you need to be doing it too, unless it works for you and your lifestyle, in which case, by all means. Something that I did in my fitness journey that I really liked was that I didn't walk right up to the squat rack. Granted, when I started training, like bodybuilding and weightlifting weren't as like trendy as they are right now. It like wasn't all over Instagram. So I didn't really feel as empowered to walk up to a squat rack because there weren't as many women in the weight room, honestly. That being said, I didn't know good form. I didn't know proper technique. I didn't understand like movement patterns and biomechanics or anything. So if I just walked up to the squat rack and tried to do a conventional deadlift, I probably would have thrown my back out. Like, I don't know how well that would have gone for me. I always suggest dumbbell workouts and machines. When you see like a seated chest press machine at the gym, that is a really good way to kind of start to get your body used to that movement pattern. You might want to work your way up to a bench press, but it might be too intimidating to do the bench press on the first day. So start with like the seated chest press. It's a machine. You don't have to set anything up. You just have to sit down, adjust the weight, and use it. And then work your way up to the bench press later on. I feel like for me, finding like less intimidating ways to do exercises was really empowering, because then I would get really confident in that movement. And I would be like, okay, I love like kettlebell, like suitcase RDLs. I was scared of the squat rack. I was scared of the barbell, but I knew I could do a kettlebell RDL. So I worked on my form. I increased my weight with that movement and with that exercise, getting heavier and heavier kettlebells every time, until I felt like my form was really solid. I had built up a nice base level of strength that I finally felt ready for the barbell. The second half of that tip is that it's totally fine to ask for help, especially if you're at one of these big gyms. There's usually personal trainers like circulating throughout the gym, either working with clients or just chatting and hanging out with people. It's totally fine to go up and ask them for help on how to use a machine. I didn't do that because I was just honestly a little bit too like stubborn and proud and embarrassed. So I never did that, but I wish I had, because instead I would just sort of be afraid of that machine and not really use it for a while. Just increasing your general knowledge. You don't have to get certified. You don't have to become a personal trainer. But going on YouTube and watching tutorials and watching, videos on form tips and how to execute exercises is really, really helpful. I usually would do it like the night before the workout. So if I knew I was going to do like a leg day on a Monday, Sunday, I would watch a couple videos on YouTube so that when I got to the gym on Monday, I felt super prepared. I felt super like comfortable with what I was going to be doing. And I sort of knew what to look for in my own form. Form is so important, and so much more important than weight, especially if you want to start out with strength training and weightlifting. Please focus on form. You don't need to be lifting the heaviest weight just because you physically can lift it, especially if your form isn't good, because you're just going to risk injuring yourself. And on top of that, you're not going to get as much out of the exercise as you would if you were going a little bit lighter on weight, but your form was really good. You'll notice, and for me too, like sometimes I get a little bit cocky and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna like add 20 more pounds to my deadlift today. And I'm like, I can lift it, but I'm actually not feeling it as much in my hamstrings and my glutes as I could be if I just only added like 5 pounds to my deadlift. And then I'll feel it way more in my glutes and hamstrings. Something else that I like didn't even say yet is that you don't need to be weightlifting. Like, I think a lot of the tips and stuff in this video are related to weightlifting, but that being said, if you just want to get into exercise in general and get into like a solid exercise routine in general, it doesn't need to be weightlifting. Experiment with different types of exercise. If you're able to, try like an Orange Theory class, try a boxing class, yoga, Pilates, like CrossFit if you want to. Like, just try a bunch of different things to see what you enjoy the most. Like, what type of exercise makes you feel the best, what gets your endorphins going, what makes you feel strong and empowered, and then sprinkle more of that into your routine. if you're working toward like a specific goal, like if you have a goal of wanting to participate in a bodybuilding competition, or if you have a goal of wanting to run a half marathon, you should probably participate in exercises that will get you towards that goal, whether that's running a certain amount every day or weightlifting if you want to do the bodybuilding competition. But if you're not training for a specific goal, if you're just doing it to be healthier, to move your body every day, and to just like help your mental health, I suggest just experimenting and finding different ways of training that make you feel good. Some other tips that I wish I had known at the beginning of my fitness journey: eat enough food and get enough rest. I think it's really tempting when you start to get into routine to just be like, oh my God, like I'm gonna capitalize on this. I'm gonna work out every single day. Like I'm gonna get up really, really early. If you're like me and if you have the too much gene basically, and you do everything way too much, it's very tempting to go overboard and to not do a good enough job of prioritizing things like sleep, recovery, rest, food, these things that are like the counterbalance to going to the gym a lot. You want to make sure you're resting a lot. If you're going to be going to the gym a lot, you need to make sure you're eating enough to support that. You're actually not going to get the most out of your training if you're doing that. So even though your brain might think more is more, the more I train, the better things will go for me, or the better I'll look, or whatever it is, it doesn't work that way. It's not like a linear equation. You need that rest and recovery, because that's when you're building new muscle. That's when you're actually seeing the effects of the training that you've been doing. In the beginning of my journey, I definitely swung too far to one side and I went kind of into the over-exercising camp. Don't do that. I would not recommend that. You're just gonna get injured, you're gonna burn yourself out, your cortisol level is gonna skyrocket, your body's gonna freak out, your hormones are gonna be all over the place. It's not good. So don't do that. All right, guys, I think that's it for this video. I hope you guys found it helpful. These were kind of some tips that I wish I had known in the beginning. If I could do it all again, I would have told younger me these things. And if you have any questions, as always, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you for watching. Bye.